on your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we are broadcasting tonight from the South Mountain in hot and smoldering Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, TessaTNT. Thank you so much for joining us tonight live on Spreaker.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Tumblr, Deezer, as well as Podcast Addict. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know Jason Hollywood Fife as well as Craig Hoffner. So Jason Hollywood Fife is the co-founder of Lost Souls Paranormal Detectives and has been an empath as long as he can remember. He has seen and heard spirits all his life. Jason has been with Lost Souls Paranormal Detectives since it was founded in 2007 with his best friend and co-founder Craig Hoffner. They've been on a lot of residential cases together over the years. They have taken a break the past couple of years, and now they are back and ready to go. They are based in Knoxville, Tennessee, and cover a fairly big area including Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and parts of West Virginia. No case is too big or small, and they do not charge for their services. And they are open to all cases and will jump in and help out wherever and whenever needed. Hey, you guys, welcome and thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm super stoked. I've had Jason on before, but we've never met you, Craig. Is there a little bit about your history that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, just like you said, I'm a co-founder with Lost Souls Paranormal. Me and Jason one night had a few too many beers and decided we were going to go ghost hunting. And so we've been doing that ever since 2007.
Yeah.
I'm the big skeptic and the techie guy, so I kind of keep him grounded sometimes, and he likes to correct me and I admit it. So we were good.
We do, yes.
Well, when did you ever have paranormal experiences as a kid, Craig, or you just decided to get into it because your best friend, had thought it'd be a good idea?
I had paranormal experiences when I was a kid, staying over at a friend's aunt's house to live down from my grandfather's. And one night just woke up and saw a big black shadow standing at the foot of the bed and scared the crap out of me. So ever since then, I've kind of been interested in it, and I love horror movies and everything else. So, it's a fitting thing for me to do.
Awesome. So, like, when this happened, did you try to figure out what it was, or did you just let it be?
No, I covered my head up with a blanket. I was 7 years old. I mean, come on. I'm a kid.
Right.
But as I got older, I always was intrigued by it, and so I got to, when I had the time and stuff after I got out of the Navy, met Jason, and we discussed it for a long time. And then we decided, I was going to go do this, and 13 years later, we're still doing it.
Yep.
So, what was the very first case that you guys worked together?
Oh, that was good. God, that's been a while.
Been a long time.
That would probably be the house that we dubbed the Orb House.
Yep.
It's out in a little community outside of Knoxville, and we had a good time there. Saw a lot of orbs actually shooting around. Actually got a picture of looked like a demon face inside of a blue orb in the basement. So that was a pretty intense job we had, but we got through it. The customers were happy with the results that we saw, and we did a little blessing on the house before we got done and went on to the next one.
So, you said you did a blessing on the house. Was that through prayer? Did you do smudging or any other things to get rid of this entity?
We did a prayer and smudging on the house.
Did it come back?
Not that we know of.
It's It's very interesting. I recently had a lady contact us, and unfortunately, the crew's not willing to go out and do jobs right now due to COVID. But I gave her all kinds of pointers that she could do and use at her house to get rid of this entity, and she said she's tried everything and nothing's working. And the only thing I could tell her, if nothing's working, is maybe she needs to move.
Eh,
Sometimes those suckers are hard to get out of there.
Yeah, that is true.
So you guys were drunk when you decided to do this. Did you ever go on investigation drunk, or do you play it
No,
safe and
never.
not do such things?
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird because we were standing in the driveway, and I've told this story probably 100 times, and it never gets old because we were standing in the driveway and we're drinking beers and stuff, and we're BSing back and forth, and we just start talking about ghosts, and that just about like because I can remember like Paranormal State had just came out on A&E, like it was maybe 2-3 episodes in at the time, and before then, we never really saw any shows like that because living in the South where we live, it's very, very not necessarily frowned upon, but it's very Southern Baptist here, and it's that's just part of the world we live in. But we were kicking around the idea, and it was like it seemed. And I know this sounds weird to a lot of people, but the more beers we drank, the better of an idea it sounded. It was like we're going to be go out here and do this, and it was like the next day it was still fresh, so we just ran with it. Like we haven't looked back. Like 13 years ago, still doing it.
So when you guys first started out, did you start with like little fun investigations on your own, or were people calling you immediately? How did that work out for you guys?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, it was the one of the it was I was working at excuse me. I was actually working 2 jobs at the time, and I didn't really tell a lot of people that I was into this, or we were doing this, because like I said, it wasn't a big thing. It wasn't talked about necessarily, and one of the girls I worked with, she swore up and down she had stuff in her house, and it was opening her daughter's doors and bedroom door, and the bathroom and the hallway, and all this other stuff, and I think at that time I honestly will say we had, I think, if I can remember right, we had 2 flashlights, a digital recorder, and like 2 10 megapixel cameras.
Yeah.
And that was our equipment. I mean, that was, up until that point, it's like we never really, of course, that was so many years ago. So a lot of this stuff was still, hadn't been made, or maybe it was, but the techniques and stuff, that we used would nobody would use them today, and we still use some of those just to keep it, maintain the integrity of what we do.
And what are these techniques that you're talking about?
Oh, a lot of times, and I know that, and if people are watching, they're going to probably start laughing, but baby powder is one of them. It's not uncommon, to have, if you have spirits in your house or you have stuff moving, everybody's like, we've got to get a camera, we got to get it set up, and kind of the one rule of thumb, like, I guess one of the top 10 rules is like we've never investigated our own houses.
Yeah.
We don't do it because we know what's there. He knows what's at his house. I know what's at mine, and we've never really discussed it, but it's always one of those things of we don't do it. But the tools that we use then, baby powder was a big one. You take an empty glass, put baby powder on the counter, put the glass on top, the next day, or, come back a couple hours later and see if it's moved. And I haven't seen anybody do that, honestly, in years, because everybody's using the grid lasers, and they're using, all this other technology, which is wonderful, but that's sort of the lost art of it, I guess.
Have you guys ever gotten like footprints through the powder? Or basically you're using it on items that may move or are known to move?
It's mostly it's like coffee tables, kitchen tables. We haven't had anybody let us put it on floors really yet because
it's hard to get out
clean
of
up. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like when you drop an egg on the kitchen floor. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to clean this up.
Yeah, it gets down in the grooves. You don't want to get it out.
All up in that nitty gritty. I know I saw this
Yep.
one case on TV where this fella owned a cemetery and a funeral home on that cemetery, and somebody kept going into the building at night and they couldn't figure out who it was. It wasn't the workers or anyone like that. So they put a bunch of baby powder on this hardwood floor, and I was just thinking, with all the cracks and crevices and bits in there, holy shnikes, that's going to be a pain in the ass to clean up. But they did get
Yeah.
tracked through it. It was pretty interesting. And then this
That's
poor guy
cool.
was getting phone calls at all hours of the night from the cemetery where this house was. And at one
Oh
point,
my gosh.
he actually stayed in the house, and there was tracks there, but nobody had ever showed up. It was pretty intense. Poor fella. I think he ended up getting divorced and all kinds of things because his wife was like, I ain't doing this.
That's funny.
But it's interesting. So, using the baby powder, have you guys been able to record evidence of things moving?
I think we've caught a couple of things. And it wasn't like a big catch. Like, we didn't come back in the kitchen or the den, and the glass is 2 foot away from where we left it. It just barely moved, and of course, I get hopped up, and I'm like, this is and I start stuttering because when I get excited, Craig knows me well enough, and Craig's like, there's a foundation, or he's like, and I'm like, it's not the foundation, Craig. And he's like, it's the foundation. And I'm like, it is not. But we have those moments, when we're out investigating, and people, and sometimes the clients will be like, are they arguing amongst themselves? And go, no, they're having a friendly discussion, But it does that because that's why we work together so well, and we've done this together for so long, is because we call each other out on our own BS when we're out investigating, and it does help because when it's all said and done, the client's first and foremost. We want to make sure they're taken care of and they're happy and it's funny because it's just, and it's hard to explain, because you got to have good chemistry, and we've seen in the past 13 or 14 years almost now, so many teams come and go because they'll have 10 or 15, 20 members, and they're all gung-ho to do it, and then all of a sudden it's like, I can't do it this weekend, or I can't do it then, or I can't do it, or whatever. And you're sitting there going, well, you kind of signed up for this, and you have that moral code
Getting people
to
to sit down and review evidence in front of a DVR for hours on hours.
That's the hardest part.
They never showed that part on TV, but
drawing straws, I ain't gonna do it.
Yep.
Yep.
That is the hardest part. Like, I love everything else about it, but I know I've got so many audio recordings that I have never gone through. Somebody actually has my audio recorder, so I'm hoping maybe they had gone through it. But even the video stuff, like, I love to watch other people's things, but like, already been there, already done it. I don't want to do it. I need a tech guy, and I think we finally found one, but we're still waiting for all this shenanigans to break loose, if it ever does. Yeah, that's the not so fun portion of paranormal investigating.
It is, because there's so, like, especially now, I feel there's so many, and I know it can go a lot deeper, but when COVID started, like me and Craig, we had talked about like January, February, like, we've got 3 or 4, Paracon stuff that we want to go do. And, we're trying to plan stuff out. And then, you've always got the emails and stuff that pop up and that people need help or people need this. And honestly, the emails haven't really stopped. And,
Yeah.
You're like, I would love to come out to your house an hour away, on a Friday night, set equipment up, do what we need to do, come back on Saturday. But, it's almost like your hands are tied to a point because you're stuck.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's like you really, really, really want to help them. But like you said earlier, you do as much as you can by email or by phone or by text message, and then you just hope it works out until all this is squared away.
Yeah, and it's difficult because, like, we're around people all the time when we go out. I mean, I had to fly out to California because my grandpa was dying, and unfortunately, he died before I could make it there. So I've been back and forth to California and Arizona in the meantime. I'm trying to do this, but I was so blown away. They never check my temperature, but supposedly when you go through that scanner thing with the footprints on it, that checks your temp. But the first plane, it was fine. The spacing was good. I didn't feel in danger. But the second flight I took, like we were all packed in there like sardines. I'm like, how the fuck is this social distancing? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in between like a really big gal and a little scrawny guy. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm sitting here. So the guy got up and let me in. But I was so frustrated. Um, Hoping I wouldn't get sick. Luckily, it's been about a month now that I've been gone from home and I haven't gotten sick. But I want to go on these investigations and help these people. But it seems like there's nobody else on my team that wants to go with me and take the risk. And
Mm-hmm.
I've learned my lesson in the past about going alone. I don't do that
Mm-hmm.
anymore due to a crazy experience I had after doing that one time. So I won't do that. And I know like there's people out there that need help, but it's so frustrating, because you have rules and it's for a reason. You
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
attachments, or in that case, I had a possession. Um, so yeah, I learned my lesson. I'm not gonna do it again. So I try to help them, but I think it's a lot to do with like uh, their faith in themselves and their power to work against this entity. A lot of people don't have
Mm-hmm.
faith in the fact that we are more powerful than this dark entity or whatnot that is in the house. And it really is up to the person that is in that household to lay down the law. Like, we can go through, show them how to do it, and let them know it's all in your intent. You gotta be
Yeah.
serious about this. And I don't know if
Yeah.
this lady's, not doing it correctly, or if she's even trying. What I said, a lot of people that contact us are just looking for attention, which is sad. Have you guys had experiences like that? Somebody calls and makes up
Yeah.
some crap, and there's really nothing to it except for a mental illness or drug use, or needing attention.
We do a very good screening before we even go to the person's house.
Mm-hmm.
Jason came up with a form of stuff that we ask every time we go. And some of the questions are really personal and invasive.
I know they look at
But,
you like,
yep. But at the
Yep.
same time, you know, we don't want to walk into somebody's house and they have a mental issue or something and wound up getting hacked up or anything crazy like that. But,
yeah,
you know, you got to be careful what you do when you go in people's house, and I always go with more than yourself. You can't go by yourself because
Yeah.
there are some nuts cases out there in the world, and we don't want to be involved with some of them.
yeah, it can get pretty scary, like you said. Hey, where'd
Um,
Bob go? Bob went on this investigation earlier, and we haven't heard back from him. Poor Bob.
Yep, been
Crazy.
gone for a couple of days. We'll never know.
He never answers his damn phone.
Yep.
So what are some other old school methods that you use besides the baby powder?
Dowsing rods.
Yep. Yep.
I love those. Those are my favorite. That was my very first
Yeah.
tool.
We actually used those. What last? We well,
A
this
couple
is
of weeks
probably
ago.
a couple weeks ago. We used them at an investigation, and it was kind of I don't know. It was that kind of a weird moment because Craig was explaining the dowsing rods and stuff, and the people that we were talking to, and the people we were with, great investigators, great people, but they never used them.
Yep.
And and they were like, what are you doing, Craig's like, you put them in your hands and you hold them, and they're like, that's it. And you know, I don't know. It was just a weird, because I kind of looked at Craig. Craig kind of looked at me, and we're just like, yeah, you hold them, and but it was a strange, yeah. And then that's the look. That's the because nobody's ever used them. They always like tighten their body, and their elbows go straight in, and they're like, they're looking around, and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's funny because that's the thing. Like when because nobody uses them.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen them used on TV.
I've seen it
I
a
mean, here
couple
in the past,
times, but very
yeah, like
rarely.
like in the past, like 4 or 5 years, I guess maybe. I've never saw them like. I've never seen them at an investigation. They're like, somebody get me the case. We've got to bring me the dowsing rods, or like they do with all the other high tech equipment that they have. And that to me is, and I know Craig feels the same way, but that's a very important piece of equipment because it dates back for centuries that
Yep.
people's
Forever.
used them.
Yeah.
Almost the beginning of time.
Yeah, I know the French used to use them to track down bandits and stuff, and they eventually quit using it because they said they had an unfair advantage. Yeah, keep using it. That's what I do. Uh, and then even like the Germans were using scissors with Polish sausages on them or whatnot. I mean, there's so many different techniques of dowsing rods that are out there. My granny, when I was little, and I was in Arkansas, I believe northeastern Arkansas at this point in Pettigrew, really tiny in the middle of nowhere town. And she showed us how to use the hickory stick to look for
hmm
water and how that worked. And then I didn't ever use dowsing again until, oh shoot, it was about 8 years ago. And we had gone to Las Vegas. I'd never been on a paranormal investigation, and I had the money for my daughter and I to go. Um, so we decided to go on this paranormal investigation run by somebody else in Las Vegas. And they sell you these really cheapy old dowsing rods for $5 each. And at first, you're using them through the whole process, and they give you the option at the end. But I remember the first time I used these things, just the energy that I felt coming through it. And we were at this certain point in Las Vegas where back in the old days, this little girl had gone to run across the street and a horse and carriage ran her over. Um, and she was giving me answers left and right. And then at one point, I was arching my back because they felt really heavy and I'm shaking tremendously. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, the energy is just insane and it feels really heavy. So my muscles are fatiguing me to the point where I start shaking." But um, from that point on, I was hooked on those dowsing rods. I'd never used the copper ones before, so those were the first
hmm
two tools because I bought two sets to put in my kit. Those were the first tools for my paranormal group, and I love them to death. They
Yeah.
may be really old school, but you can do numbers, you can find out names, locations, like so many different things through them.
Yep. That's true. A lot of people don't use them anymore, but it it's cool. It's been improving. It's proven itself over and over again in investigation. So we keep using them. I mean, I like using them.
Me too. My kids like them as well. On the way back from Las Vegas, we stayed in Kingman, Arizona, which is, I think the whole freaking place is haunted. But we'd stayed in this hotel on the way out there to Vegas, and this lady, no, it was on the way back. This lady was communicating with us that she had been murdered in that room, and she had kids and all kinds of other things. And the kids were pretty freaked out. I don't think they slept very good that night. And then the next morning, we go to a Hotel 6 because they have a restaurant there, and we ate breakfast. And me and the kids finished early, and they're stoked. "Hey, can we use the dowsing rods again?" And I'm like, "Okay, you know the rules." I had not told them the rule about not inviting things to come with you, but
Yeah.
we went. this little boy named Billy, and his little sister had fallen in the pool and was drowning, and he jumped in to try to save her, but he ended up drowning too because he didn't know how to swim. So it was crazy. I got a picture of my daughter's dress being pulled to the side by his little sister. There's no wind or nothing, but you could see this point at her dress just pulled out like a little baby's holding on to it. But at the end of that, little Davy Joe's like, "Hey Billy, you want to come home with us?" I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You never ask anything to come with you. Like you don't know if this is really a little boy or something else making you think it's a little boy. Don't ever do that
Yeah.
again."
Yeah.
Seems like ever since then he's had an attachment. Crazy stuff going around him in particular. I don't know if I paved the way for that.
That's another thing too. You know, being in the paranormal, you can protect yourself. You can tell people in your group, you know, do this, don't do that, and you just never know what's going to happen. You know,
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen.
it's very interesting, and you see the shows where it's just like bam, 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 all this stuff happening, but you could be sitting there for hours and get nothing.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Or as soon as you turn off your camera, something happens, or whatnot. Have you guys ever had attachments come home with you?
Yep.
We both have had our fair share of attachments. Um, none of them I could say that we wanted, and I know, and I say that being, and I guess I can say this now since it's been over 10 years, but being veteran paranormal investigators, um, you know, you always take the steps, getting out of the car, leaving your equipment out, or putting your equipment in bags, or having to change of clothes outside your door. So when you get up to your door to go inside, you change clothes outside. You know, there's all this stuff that I mean, nobody told us about that stuff. You know, I mean, nobody nobody was like, hey, it might be a good idea. You know, all the equipment that you took to this place where there were these spirits. You may want to cleanse that stuff before you bring it inside. No, being uh, new at it, we're like, we'll just throw it in the spare bedroom, and
Put it in the
It'll be all
closet
good.
until the next time.
yeah, it'll be ready for next time. And then you wake up and you're like, why are you here? What are you doing? Like you have
Yeah.
those moments, and I can laugh about it because anybody that's been doing this long enough, it's happened to you, and you don't, it's one of those things, and people are always, what's the scariest thing ever? And I'm like, bringing something home with me.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing that I can think of. All the cases we've been on together and the stuff that we faced, that's probably my biggest thing because we're best friends. We investigate together, and then, we both have work, we both have our lives. And it's kind of weird because when we leave an investigation, we're like soul brothers. We've said
Yeah.
that a bunch, and it's like we're always connected all the time. And Craig can fill in some of this because I'm sure I've missed it, but there was several investigations where we've come home and it's just been for like 4 months. 4 months after the
Yeah.
investigation, just everything was fine, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm drained, I'm tired, I don't feel good. You go through this whole gamut or gauntlet of stuff, and then I kind of don't realize he's going through it, and he doesn't really
Yeah.
realize I'm going through it until we start talking, and then all of a sudden he's like, or I'm like, well, past a couple weeks been really, really rough, and I've been really
Yeah.
depressed, really down on myself, and he was like, me too, and then we start talking about it, and it kind of goes back to that whole stuff of the bringing something home with you,
Yep.
and we both had it happen on several occasions.
So generally, like when you do bring something home, does it just cause disruption throughout your house? You said that it caused depression and other feelings like that. Did you figure out who the spirit was, how to get rid of them, or did they just eventually go away?
In my case, it just eventually went away. So I was lucky in that part. But we did have some stuff here happen at the house. My wife was in the kitchen and a bunch of dishes came flying out of the cabinet. And that kind of scared her a little bit. And we still have stuff go on here. Um, we see a little girl in the house, likes to play in the hallway. You can see her every now and then. She talks. Um, People that come over and hang out with our kids, they've seen the little girl, and it's like, who was that? You
Who's
know,
that little girl?
yeah,
It's funny, like, does every household have a little girl? We've had a one around our house for quite some time. I think she was there before we even moved in, because I didn't start my group till 2012, but I have had paranormal experiences all my life. Like, for me, the
hmm
paranormal is normal. Um, you share with friends you think you have, and they're like, this fucking bitch is crazy, and they don't talk to you anymore, you know? So I
yep,
started to keep it to myself till 2012 when a friend of mine really needed help. Her son went missing, and it turns out he was murdered by his dad. And
man,
at that point, Paranormal State, like you said earlier, that was the first show that I ever saw to where I was just like, I want to do that too. I want to be able to help people. And at that point, I was like, fuck it. Like, I don't care what other people think or what they say. I'm going to do this because if it was my kid missing, I'd want anybody and everybody to come out of the woodwork to help me.
yep,
I'm almost about to cry, but it's just insane, you know. So I decided to let it go, and it's been amazing. All these shows that have come out, people are more accepting of it these days than they were in the past. And I grew up
mm,
mostly in Arkansas as a kid, and like you said, in that Bible Belt area. Even my aunt, I was so excited to tell her about what I was doing because she was best friends with my mom, and my mom was super paranormal. She'd go to the cemetery, she'd smoke a joint and talk to spirits, and they'd talk back, and she had all kinds of stuff going on. And I think it passes down through the family, but my aunt's talking about, well, what makes you think God's gonna protect you when you're communing with the devil or demons? I'm like, there's ghosts, there's
just
spirits, there's demons. Like, there's all that stuff out there. Just because it's a ghost does not mean it's a demon. Even Jesus in the Bible said, "It is I, Jesus. I am
hmm
not a ghost. It is me." He said ghost, not demon. Okay, bitch. So get off it.
yep,
Yep. I mean that's right. You're right on it.
I just feel
I mean
like,
that.
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to say, I just feel like God would not have given me the gift of being able to see and hear and communicate with these things, whether it's out loud or telepathically, unless it was meant to be. And I feel like if I put that gift up on a shelf and didn't use it because of what other people thought, that to me would be the true sin. You know,
Yeah.
hmm
I think I'm doing right, and I think you guys are doing right as well. There's people out there that surely need our help, and there's not a lot of help out there for people. There's
Yeah.
those overnight crews or weekend warriors or whatever that last for a very short amount of time because they're just in it for the thrills and chills. But there's really people out there that do need our help, and I commend you guys for what you're doing. You're awesome.
Well, thank you.
Get it.
But yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
I don't know what you were about to say, Jason. That's why I was gonna let you say it first, but um,
I can't remember. I can't
yeah.
remember now. My mind is so random that we'll be talking about something completely different. And I'll go, oh yeah, by the way, you
yeah,
know, because me and Craig we discuss this a lot, and I'll be like, I'm just full of random facts, and I'm so random, about the way I guess being empathic has a little bit to do with that. I think because I'm not necessarily OCD to a point, but
there you are.
it takes yeah. a
Craig
little bit
says you're in
maybe.
denial.
But
What do you say about that?
yeah,
Just kidding.
it's very possible. But it's funny because I'll be like, we'll be out going to investigation or or setting equipment up, and I'll be like, "Are you hungry? Have you ate anything today?" And I'm like, "Did you plug that in over there? Do I need to go plug it in?" I'm like, "Are you sure? You didn't say you've ate anything today?" And it's just like the randomness of and a lot of people, and I say this because I'm sure there's people watching or listening that are maybe interested in paranormal, or they may be seasoned investigators, or maybe they're just getting into it. But to do it, you have to be on a certain level, and even starting out, I think we were kind of already on that level because the chemistry between us already put us to a certain point. And then from that point, we just had to figure out, kind of our own skill sets within the group and then run with it,
Yep.
if that makes sense. But that goes back to the randomness of, you know, sometimes I'm so far out right field, like we caught this on video, and he's like, no, we didn't, or going back to that, and it's just, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, did you eat today? By the way, I didn't know we were driving up here, and did you? But that's the randomness, and that's usually how, from my experience, a paranormal investigator, that's kind of their mindset, because our brains are constantly working 24/7. It never shuts off. Um, a lot of times doing this, we will always put everybody else before ourselves.
Hmm.
Yep.
And go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was just about to say that's. I wanted to say that's the name of the game, but that's a big part of it is to put others before you, and it's the service to mankind that we're doing. Um, it's not about us. There are parts that we have to take care of ourselves. Like you said, did you eat? Did you drink plenty of
Mhm.
water? Because this stuff will feed off of you. It'll dehydrate you. Like there's so many different things that can happen out in the field. So it's awesome
Yep.
that you're doing it. But I can see what you're saying. Like my mind, I feel like is in a blender a lot of times.
Yep.
So I'll have these multiple different thoughts just flying through, and it's to the point to where it's really hard to get to sleep at night, so I'll watch paranormal stuff to go to sleep. Used to be I'd watch several videos. I've gotten to the point now I go like 20 minutes or less and I'm conked out and I never finish it. Just depending on the night really and the energy that's going on, but it's pretty amazing and insane at the same time how it does affect you. So have you guys, due to your paranormal experiences and the whole thought process of it, um, has that caused you to have any sort of sleep deprivation or insomnia or whatnot?
Uh, no, not really. Not for me. Good Lord, V8 takes care of the sleeping part for me. Yeah.
I'm the opposite of that. I do have the sleep, and um, just the I could go for. I mean, I get physically tired, but my brain never shuts off. So, um, and with my work schedule too, it's almost like I can't come home and go straight to bed like a lot of, and I say normal people do, but yeah, because um, I might get home at like say 11 o'clock at night. I don't go to bed till 4 in the morning
Hmm.
because I'm always thinking. I'm always, and it doesn't really have a lot to do with, I think, my mental or physical state. I think it has a lot to do with the spirit world. A lot of time, the constant, um, um, just that constant seeing stuff or hearing stuff, and your mind's like, and a lot of times, and you're trying to be like, hey, look, you know, I'm at home now. This is my time, or I'm grocery shopping, or doing whatever that we do, and as normal as possible. And it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
It's constant.
it really is. And I don't know, I think my paranormal PTSD and my insomnia was caused from experiences I had as a kid. And at a point, I think at 7 years old, I think I was 7 when I got baptized. From 7 to 13, I didn't have anything happening, although I was still staying up just waiting for it to happen because it always had, you know. And then at 13, shadow people started following me and talking to me and stuff, and it started to increase again. But I think back to my childhood and all these scary things. And like you said, Craig, you were little at the point, my
Mm-hmm.
shield was pulling the sheets up to my,
Yeah.
right below my nose so I could see what was going on. But hopefully, like that hid enough of me that this thing wouldn't mess with me. And it just looked over at me and then looked back down the
Mm-hmm.
hallway. And I heard it go through my mom's door and it actually closed the door behind it. And she was wearing these high heel shoes. This lady was wearing 1800s era lace up high heel boots. Um, it was pretty intriguing, pretty interesting, and like I said, it just sets you on edge, and it's like a form of PTSD because it is so scary. You never expected anything like this to happen before. Uh, it just really blows your mind and blows every point of reality you have ever known out of the water. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty insane.
Yep. I agree with you there.
Yep.
My biggest fear is that my stepkids want to get involved in doing the paranormal and stuff like that. You know, my biggest fear is something get attached to them and attacks them, and then the dad kicks in, and I don't ever. That's my biggest fear is protecting the family when they do go out with us and do stuff.
So have you found that your kids or grandkids or whatnot have the same gifts? Like they pick up on supernatural or paranormal things, or do they not talk about it? Like what exactly happens in your guys' family? Have you noticed
Uh,
others in your family that have these gifts or no?
my my stepdaughter and my wife both have a little bit of empathic abilities. Nothing that you really experience, but they both do draw things to themselves, and that's like I said, that's my biggest fears for them to get hurt while doing this. Because I'm not worried about me. I'm a big tough guy. I'll take on anything.
You're like, I got this.
Yep.
I don't know, I found not only have I brought things home with me from investigations, and I think that's only happened that one time, but I think me being gifted and my kids being gifted, it's kind of like a beacon that ghosts pick up on. Because when we first moved into our house, there was a ghost there. We didn't know who it was or why he was there, but I just got the name John in my head. So I'm like, oh, it's just John. Don't worry about it. He's cool. And he's always been really cool with the kids. He's tried different things to scare them because I think he thinks it's funny. Kind of reminds me of my dad. Um, but it seems like there's other spirits that come and go, and sometimes they get stuck. We had one particular one that was stuck in the hallway, and he would go up and down the hallway, punching the walls and causing chaos. And I remember my husband was working this security job because we have our own security firm, and I'm at home alone with the kids. And I just feel something staring at me from the hallway, so I just scoot up so it can't stare
Mm-hmm.
at me anymore. Um, but yeah, he's always been really cool, but there's things that have gotten in there that are not so happy and they get stuck and they cause chaos, and there's others that are just looking for help. But it's so hard because like you said, both of you, I will not investigate my own home. I just have this fear that if I do, it's going to increase the activity or make it worse. So I
Mm-hmm.
do different things to cleanse the house without investigating. But yeah, I'm afraid if I do delve into it, try to record EVPs or record video or whatnot, or try to delve into what's there, it might cause more issues. It's
Mm-hmm.
so funny. Like I can help everybody else, but I can't like help myself as far as doing an investigation. But I think I don't know. There's some sort of risk there.
Oh yeah, definitely a risk because you never know what you're going to invite in or what your kids or somebody else. So just might open that one door and it could be something demonic, and you just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And but we keep the ghost hunting outside of the house, no, not in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, if that's one of the hardest things to do, because this is you have your life and your job and your bills you pay and the normalcy of what everybody sees you as, and then you have your and I use this phrase, like, even sometimes at work I'll be like, my paranormal life is completely different than my normal life, because there are things that I do that a lot of people don't know about. And when it comes to the spirit world and stuff like that. And people are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I'm like, and me and Craig have talked about this a lot. And it's like, there's certain things, we're almost um, on a level of, we help people for good. That's what our mission is. And you always have that in the back of your mind is like, well, are we doing this for the right reasons, or are we doing this because this or that or whatever? And when you go about your mundane life, and then it's kind of crazy, because we went and did an investigation last night. But the weird part about it was, and I laughed when I got home, and I changed clothes, and I was like, okay, I'm in my safe place. I am back to my normal self. This is me. Um, this is my safe haven, if you will. My paranormal stuff is outside. I don't have to worry with it. Now I can do my day to day activities. And I'm starting to see a trend, and I guess I could say that, but I'm starting to see a trend of where people are starting to kind of bring both of them together, and they're trying to live the same as, pardon me, as a paranormal investigator and as a normal person's life. And I don't ever think that this was meant to be combined.
Mhm.
If that makes sense whatsoever, um, in that.
It really does. All right, so I'm looking at the time, but I think we have a couple more minutes. I don't know. It's really interesting, the different techniques. So we talked about baby powder, we talked about dowsing rods. Can we touch on another technique that you guys use shortly before we go to the first musical break? Do you guys use
Well,
pendulums or anything like that? I've tried pendulums, but I don't have as much success or patience for that as I do dowsing rods. Like dowsing rods,
hmm
it's like natural for me, but pendulum, it just feels so foreign. And I bought a really cool crystal one, but I don't think I have the patience for it or
It,
the understanding of
we
how to use it.
on a couple of biscuit, we've used bells, just
hmm
regular bells. If you're here, you know ring that bell for us, or whatever. And I'm kind of like you are on that, though. I'm like sitting there, and I keep letting I stare at the bell, or I
hmm
stare at the baby powder, and I'm like, is something going to happen? I've been
It's like
staring at it for
staring
an
at
hour.
water, waiting for it to boil.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
To boil.
but that's kind of one of the other things that we've tried, that that I don't know if it's really worked or not. I mean,
Well,
it's one of those.
yeah. When you said the pendulum thing, I just remember when I was a kid and everything, we would just take a needle, put it on a string, and then sit there and ask questions and stuff, and just watch it move around. We thought that was cool as can be, but we had no idea what we were getting into or what we were doing. But we did it anyway because it was cool.
That's awesome. That just gave me an idea of trying like a small brass, tine or something on the end of a rope and try it that way instead of a large, heavy freaking
hmm
crystal. Like, it takes a lot of energy for a spirit to communicate. And I have this giant crystal on the end of a freaking chain.
Yeah,
The freaking needle thing
Yep.
is pretty interesting. I think that would work a lot better than that big old honkin' rock.
yeah. It still moves.
Yep.
I could, we always had fun with it, so But growing up in my household, it was just I had older brothers and sisters, so I had a lot of time to myself to think of crazy things to do, to entertain myself,
Yeah, because
So,
you got ditched a lot, right? I did.
yeah, definitely.
I wasn't cool enough to hang out with the older kids. Whatever.
Yeah.
Now they know I'm cooler than
Yeah.
them. I'm just kidding.
Well, I had a lot. I learned how to change my voice and make my mother crazy because she used to tell us we were not allowed to have anybody in the house while she was at work after school, and she'd come home and I'm in there playing with my army guys and stuff, and I'd be talking in different voices, and she'd swear up and down I had another kid in the house, and she'd come in there to look and couldn't find nobody. Uh, and when we was on an investigation last night, uh, he
Yeah.
told Jason kept asking if it was okay for he sat on the bed, and I came out with this little raspy, creepy voice and said, "Go ahead, you can sit on it." And one of the guys that was with us, he just turned around, looked at me, and said, "What the heck was that?" So I can keep it entertaining when I want to, but
Right?
yeah, it's
Well,
fun.
it makes me wonder, like, when you guys were kids, did you have imaginary friends? I do not remember ever having one. I had a very active imagination, and I kept myself entertained because, like
Yeah,
you said, older siblings, ain't nobody got time for younger siblings. So you
yep.
have to entertain yourself. Did you have an imaginary friend that could have been possibly
No,
a spirit?
I didn't. Nope, I didn't have
See,
anything like that.
Me neither. I
I
wasn't
did.
cool enough. You did?
Yeah.
What was its name
Yeah.
or her name?
Well, my earliest recollection, I had these, and at that time they had all my cars and trucks were metal. Like I had this metal like fire truck, and I never forget the ladder on it. I mean, it was like real rope and stuff, so you could like twist it, and the ladder would go up, and and stuff. And I had wooden closet doors, but the doors were on tracks. So you had to pull one door one way, you get your stuff and shut it, and then you had to pull the door the other way. You can never open them really at the same time. And I would be in my room playing, and the door would open. The closet door open. And I'm talking like solid wood doors and it didn't really have a handle. It just had the circle on it.
Yeah, we
Yeah, and you just you have to physically move it. And I'll never forget that. And I kept hearing something in the closet, and I was like, "What?" And I opened the door, and then there was this kid there, and I was like, "Well, do you want to play with my trucks and stuff?" And he was like, "Yeah," So, up until I was probably 10, and this was like when I was like 5 or 6. He was always there. He was always around me, always hanging out. And I never really say anything to my parents because that just, yep, you can't, you don't, but I could see him plain as day, you know, and we had kid conversations, because he looked just like me. I mean, there was nothing really that different about him.
So as you
Um,
grew, did he grow too, or did he always stay the same age?
it was, I was in middle school, and it was there was, for me, there was always sort of a presence there in the house. Um, but he just kind of like faded away. Like I never, and I think that was about the right time where I was starting to get into music, girls, cars, my adolescence. So I was starting to, getting all that stuff in middle school, high school, and it just kind of faded away. But I always had that energy. I've always felt that same presence.
Did he ever tell you what his name was?
His name was Edward.
Nice. That's a pretty common name. I
Yeah,
just then I
I
was like,
mean,
I know an Edward on the spirit
yeah,
realm.
yeah, and that's why I didn't really think nothing about it because I mean he looked. I mean, and I even now I can remember sitting in the floor Indian style playing with my trucks and stuff, and him sitting right across from me playing. And my mom would come and walk down the hall or whatever, and she'd look at me. It would be time for lunch or whatever it was, and and she'd be like, well, who are you talking to? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm playing on my cars, and and not even think about it, because it was almost like that. If I said something to her, she probably thought I was crazy, for having an imaginary friend.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many more questions about this imaginary friend. Okay, so did the friend age or no? Did it stay the same age as you grew and then all of a sudden it was gone, or did it grow with you? I always
It
wonder
was
about that.
from my recollection from when I was like 12, 13, and as I got older, Edward didn't get any bigger. Edward kind of stayed, because I was 5, 6, I think, when I first saw him, around that age, maybe even 4, and he was like 6 or 7. So, I've never seen him any older than he was then.
Did he ever say like why he was there, what happened to him?
No, no,
Had your
no. But
family? Go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, I could always tell that it made him happy. Like, because I can remember opening the closet door, or my closet would be open, and it was like almost, if I was gone somewhere or something and I came home, he was in my bedroom. Like he was there. But it was weird because he never, like, I never saw him anywhere else in the house. I never saw him in the living room. I never saw him anywhere else.
Yeah, it makes me think of a kid. I watched this show about him, and all his other siblings were treated correctly, but for some reason he was abused by both his parents, and they'd lock him in this little like pantry sort of thing that was part of their entertainment center, and he was always in there, and his brothers and sisters would come and like give him food through the crack and talk to him, or maybe possibly give him a toy that he had to hide, because if he was caught with it, like he was in
Yeah.
worse trouble than he was already. So I'm just wondering, like, was he forced to stay in that closet, and did something really terrible happen to him at a young age? At the point where, at that point in time, perhaps the government or social services or whatnot would not have picked up on it had he never gone to school. Like, he was born, he just never went to school, and so nobody knew what was going on. It's so sad. It just makes me
Mm-hmm.
wonder why he felt like he had to stay there. Hopefully he was able to release, but I'm glad you played with him and interacted with him. I think that was something big, really big for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, but I'll never forget it. I mean, it's vivid.
Well, on that note, you guys, we do have to go to our first musical break. And on this break, we have Fireline Kiss with Your Eyes. We have Cockroach. Okay, so Fireline Kiss is an on-the-road trucker. He's got his 2 dogs trucking around with him, and he made some techno music. And then we have Cockroach from the UK with I See You. And then we have Britt Casey with Mr. Cellman. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Your eyes. Your eyes. Your eyes.
ring twice. How you doing, boo? Cool, how's your date? Nice. Now she ain't picking up, plus a text her. Put it to your plane, she's the one to get next to. It's not just the way it's all day with affection. I'm hoping this detection is poor reception. Straight to the machine, mean it's like clicking my car, get connected quick. I'm saying, hey, Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Why she ain't picking up, yo? I see the phone rings quite a few times before any answer, and I know she's the first time I call, I'm like, maybe she working. And the second time I call, I'm like, little bit hurting. But the third time I call, I'm like, going berserk. And now half a day gone, can't get her on the horn. Usually in the morning, maybe it's something wrong. I mean, she wouldn't take this long to call back. See, we tight like that, she's supposed to be mine. So could you please try it one more time? Hey, Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Why she ain't picking up, yo? For some reason, it's like she ain't home. Just wanna get my baby on the phone. Now I know that she's there all alone. So can you please hook up my cellular phone? Hey, Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Why she ain't picking up, yo? Why she ain't picking up, yo?
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we are joined by Jason, Hollywood, Fife. We had Craig on, but Craig had to go away because he has to work in the morning, unfortunately. But it was so awesome to have him. Welcome back, Jason, and thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm super stoked. Like, I always have such a good time with you, and I can't wait till I can go to Tennessee and do a paranormal investigation with you.
It'll be fun. There's so much history and historic places around here that it's full of just kind of like mystery and I mean all kinds of stuff. It's great. It's a great place to live.
So my brother, he lives in not too far out of Savannah, Georgia, and they're saying there's so much paranormal activity. There's so many paranormal tours, and a lot of them are bar hopping things. So they'll take you to certain bars, tell you the history of it. Everybody buys a drink or two or three or five or whatever. And you get pretty messed up on that. I'm wondering, like, when they do that, do you sign some sort of release? You know, because going into an investigation inebriated, things tend to latch on to you much easier had you not been. So I'm just like thinking about all the crazy things that could happen to these people going on these tours, and it sounds like a ton of fun, but at the same time, I can just see attachments all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I would think the same thing because I drink for recreational, and that's kind of my thing. So I couldn't really, I don't know what it would be like to be inebriated or anything like that on an investigation, especially or even out in public at an investigation. That to me would be weird because that seems like it would just be wanting spirits to join you. Like it seems like you would be more, not as less guarded, I guess, be more open to it, possibly.
Yeah, I think it takes down your barriers and your intuition to protect yourself. I think all your walls come down, different things come down, and you're not as protected as you would be had you not been inebriated. I cannot remember one time I've gone on an investigation for fun or whatnot, or professionally where I have been. So it just makes me wonder, like, what kind of release are they signing? And at the same time, being in security and knowing about contracts and stuff, once you put out this thing for people to signing off the liability and such for your company, right there on that form that you're making people sign, you're admitting that you are at fault basically, because there could be things that could happen and attach to you. So they're trying to cover their ass at the same time admitting something will happen. I don't know.
That is
Scares
kind of
me.
crazy, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird because hypothetically, if you were inebriated and you were doing their tour and pardon me, and you got an Uber home and then all of a sudden like the next day some weird shit starts happening and you don't really remember a whole lot, but you remember bits and pieces of the tour. I don't know, that would just be weird. To me, because you're already in a state of mind that is not clear. So therefore, I don't know. It would be strange. It'd be strange to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And like with when I went on that investigation and cleansed the house on my own, I was not inebriated, but I can't even say it correctly. Inebriated. Okay, there we go. Um, but I go in and I show this pregnant lady how to cleanse her house. I didn't do anything beforehand because, okay, I'm pulling in to basically the back lot of this Catholic church. This apartment is right on the back lot of a Catholic church. And I don't know if it was because this entity was intelligent or what, but I had no feelings like as far as, oh, there's something bad here. Generally, I can drive by somewhere, that place is haunted, that place is definitely haunted, so on and so forth, and nothing was picking up for me. And I cleansed the house. I'm in sage smoke the whole time, so as I leave, I'm like, I'm okay. This house is full of sage, and I really shouldn't have to do anything. I wish I had. The only thing that I had done was carry some tourmaline and selenite in my pocket that day. And as soon as I got undressed, I don't know if I've told you this before, but as soon as I got undressed and changed into my pajamas and the stones were gone, about 30 minutes later is when the possession took place. And my husband said he wasn't angry at me because he knew it wasn't me. Not only did my voice and the things that I said change, but my facial structure changed. And when I came to, I was naked behind the wheel of my car. I was heading toward the Ute Reservation. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I gotta get back home now. I gotta go home now. I gotta go home now. That's like all that kept repeating through my head. And I'm hoping that the cops don't pull me over. Because how am I gonna explain, like, being naked
Right,
in my car? Uh,
right,
I figured I'd go skinny dipping in my vehicle. I don't know. But I get back home. My husband and kids are locked in the master bedroom, and I'm like, okay, this must be for a reason. I'm just gonna put my pajamas on, fall asleep watching TV, and the next day, instead of my husband coming out and being pissed off at me because he thought I was blackout drunk or whatever, he was like, "Are you okay? I know that wasn't you." Because the voice and the facial structure and so on and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And that was just really crazy. Holy shnikes. Like, I threw a coffee down the hallway and there were splatters everywhere. And I don't know what exactly I did, but they were afraid and they were hiding. And that made me feel really bad, really guilty. But I know it wasn't me. I know it was this entity that was pissed off. I was trying to help this mother who's about to have a child. And I'm thinking this entity wanted to take over the child. And I came in and
right,
fucked everything up for it. And
right,
so it's really pissed off at me. So it follows me less than a mile away. Like, this lady was right up the road from where I live and totally messed up my world to teach me a lesson not to ever do that again. But I'm pretty sure what I taught her, the structure, the way you do it, that she was able to take care of things because I haven't heard from her since. Either that
right.
or she just moved. But
Yeah,
that was scary.
that's terrifying. Like, that's like probably the worst thing that could happen to us as investigators.
Hmm.
Paranormal investigators. And that's a that's and that's one of the biggest things that that when we go out to do these cases, we're you can, like you said, you can do everything in the world, and something like that can happen to you, and and you not know it till the next day or a couple days or whatever.
It was insane. I was not expecting anything like that. I didn't feel anything tagging along with me. I didn't pick up on anything negative, but I showed her every nook, cranny, and crevice. You want to put smoke in there, have a exit way for the spirit to go out of, and I don't know. Hopefully, she learned from me and she was able to protect herself and her baby. But yeah, that was just insane. And that's when I learned, like, don't go by yourself because things can really have a huge effect on your life. I'm just grateful that nothing physically harmed my family. I mean,
Hmm.
could you imagine the guilt you'd have if you had done that, not being in your mind, but something else taking you over doing that? I mean, I would just feel terrible forever. So,
That would be, yeah. I mean, that'd be horrible. I mean, that's insane that it happened to you. I mean, and you never think that's going to happen to you. I mean, that's the furthest thing from your mind. Doing what we do is, we're here to help the client, whatever we need to do to make sure they're safe. We kind of put ourselves on that back burner, and you know, and a lot of times it's, and I think we've talked a little bit about this before, but even even as investigators, it's not, it's a calling. It's something we're called to do, but our lifestyle is completely different than anybody else's,
mhm.
and a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's kind of like what you see on TV, but nobody ever sees the backside of that. The stuff that we go through on a daily basis, or the stuff that we have to deal with emotionally, mental, stuff like that, because, it's not about us, it's about helping that family or that person. And then, you know, we do our best to figure out what's going on with us, and then we're on to the next case. We're on to that next, to help someone else out, until it gets to a point to where finally either our body shuts down, or like what happened to you, or you're just like, I can't do it anymore right now. Like, I got to take a break. And that was similar. We had, Craig and I both left an investigation. We had all the protection things the way we're supposed to. And for about 4 to 6 months, we went through a deep depression without each other really knowing that the other one was going through it. We were getting up, still going through the motions day to day, but it was like that struggle. Like, we didn't talk about the paranormal. We didn't, we would get emails from cases and stuff, and he would text me and he'd be like, "You just deal with it." And I'm like, "No, you just deal with it." I mean, because that's at the point where we were at, because we didn't realize what both of us were going through at the same time. And I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you've actually been through it. Like, you understand, but it's it's not an easy life to do what we do on a daily basis, because everybody thinks it's like what you see on TV, and it's not.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, people feel like they're cursed with this gift, so on and so forth. Like, I think it is just a matter of perspective of how you look at it and how you use it and how you do protect yourself.
Yeah.
And those things are so important. Important.
Hmm.
I don't know why I said it like that, but grounding, grounding, and doing all these other things that you do. Holy shnikes.
Hmm.
But it is so important to do these things, and some people are like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna do that. That takes too much time, too much energy. All it takes is like up to like 5 minutes of your day Surround
Yep.
yourself with light, surround yourself with that energy. Take the energy through your feet, up through your head, and back out again, and then back and forth, whatnot, like however you do it. Stones are
Yep.
important, saging, cleansing yourself in different ways. And a lot of people think of it as witchcraft or
Yep.
using magic or whatnot, but it's not. It's all dependent on your faith. This stuff will
Hmm.
not work unless you have faith in it, and that's the main key for it. You have to have faith in it. If you don't have faith, it's not going to work.
No, 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 it's not. And that was one of mine for me, like on my personal journey, was my biggest thing was religion. And I mean, like being brought up in the Southern Baptist tradition, church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I mean, that was, you were either going to be in the choir preaching or, but that's how it is. And um, once I got out of high school and kind of started doing my own thing, then I was like, I really need to learn about as many different religions as I possibly can. And it's weird because it broadened my horizons, not only myself personally, like spiritually, but it helped, with my day to day too. And oddly enough, and I've I went back and forth on this, and I went back and forth on this, and I have a real good friend, Cheryl, that lives out in Oklahoma, and she's kind of like my go-to person. We're on Facebook. We were actually messaging, like an hour before the show, and what's happened during the weekend and this and that, and just everyday life. But we were, and it's good to have that, because doing what we do and going about our stuff is so mentally draining and exhausting. But when I got out of high school, and I never in a million years would have ever thought I'd be sitting here doing a podcast as a paranormal investigator. That was not the plan. That was not what, I wanted to do. And I got tickled because I was working at a job, and I'd been there 6 months or so. I'm like 19. And I meet this lady. Well, she was like 23, and I'm like, okay, well, she's very attractive, very, and we talked for a little bit, and we actually went out a couple of times. And then she just flat out springs on me. She was like, I know you're really into like religion and stuff, and you really want to learn about different religions and this and that. And she was like, have you ever thought about learning about voodoo? And I'll never forget, we were at a restaurant, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, really? Like, I know enough about that to get me in trouble. Like, I don't know
Right?
anything, I mean. And she's like, well, she goes, I can help you on your, what you're wanting to do, your spiritual journey. I can actually help you and understand what it is to be a voodoo in the voodoo, or to be a voodoo priestess or a practitioner. I spent 13 years studying kind of under her. And I don't mean study as in like practicing the magic. She was teaching me the right, wrong, and I was learning other religions and stuff too, at the same time, because I had a really, really good friend, a Muslim, at the same time, and then he was teaching me, their teachings, and it was really a diverse time, for like 15 years, because here I am, I have the foundation, and I'm like, I need to learn everything I can about these different religions. So oddly enough, doing what I do now, it's actually helped, because when you get the emails or the phone calls, that's one of the first questions I ask them. I hope you don't mind. I hope I'm not stepping on your toes, but what religious background are you? And, if whatever they tell me, I have a better understanding of where they're coming from and what they're doing, because that way we can go in and help them. And it's just weird. It's weird how it kind of comes full circle. If that makes sense. It's like it's a weird, like, because I never people thought I was crazy when I was younger, because you're learning what, and you're talking to these people, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, and I'm like, I mean, it's just normal, I thought, but I look back on it 30 years later, and it all makes perfect sense.
Well, I think for people, like, that's not normal. But for me, when I was growing up, my mom was killed by a drunk driver when I was 5, almost 6. And then after that, we moved from Siloam Springs, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere, to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we lived in this house. And I remember walking around, going to different churches during the day when my dad was at work or whatnot at Fayetteville Open Channel. And after that, he'd go to the bar and bounce at night. He was working 2 jobs. And I was just trying to find answers. And then I got baptized at the age of 7 into the LDS church with my great grandparents, my great great grandparents, and my grandma Nova were all LDS. But I'm trying to find answers. And even as a teenager, so I was 18, I believe, when I joined the military. And in the military, like, every religion is at your fingertips. So you can go to any church you want to, and it's just like listening to what they say, deciphering what's right, what's wrong. And I feel like if churches would just come together, we'd have the
Mm-hmm.
full truth.
Yeah.
Nobody, no certain religion, even LDS, they say they're the one true church. Nobody has the true meaning of what is supposed to be. If we all just came together as churches, or
Mm-hmm.
even politics, if we all just came
Yep.
together and became one group, we'd be so much happier than what we're doing now. Segregation
Yep.
is the worst thing you can do, but I feel
Yes.
like everybody's got a small portion of the truth. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a small
Yep.
portion of it. If we just put all our small portions that are true together, we'd have the
Mm-hmm.
real truth. But people are too busy
Yep.
being better than each other, being more right
Yep.
than each other, like we're the only true
Yeah.
people. It's just ridiculous because we're all human. We're all looking for the same thing. Can we just work together
Yep.
instead of having that hatred or dislike or
Yeah.
distant of each other?
Mhm.
It's pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous. And so that's when as a teenager, I fell away from the church because I'm like, I know it's not just the only true church. I know there's other churches out there that do have the right answer. It's just small little particles. Put it together, you got
Yep.
a nice little atom or whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting
Yep.
how, as children, we were seeking that out. We're seeking out the truth, and that is
Mhm.
not normal for a lot of people. But for you and I,
Yeah.
it was. Like, that was my
Yeah.
mission. I want to know what's true.
Yeah.
I want to know what's happened to my mom, where she's at, and
Yeah.
the meaning of
Yep.
life at such a young age. But for
Yeah.
me, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. And that's and I'm on the same page with you on that. And oddly enough, that was what me and Cheryl were actually talking about was reincarnation.
Hmm.
And because I we talked about it a little bit, and that was our conversation kind of tonight, and I was just like, I said, I don't know how many more lives I have left, to come back.
Hmm.
And we do voice messages on Messenger, and I hear she sends one back and she's laughing, and she's like, what do you mean you don't have like 30 or 40 like everybody tells you that you have? And I'm like, no, no, like and we're carrying on our conversation, and we're talking, and I'm like, from such a young age, I always felt I was so much older than I actually was.
Yeah, I never got
So,
along with anybody in
and
school because they're on this level and I'm way up here. And so I just
yeah,
focused on my school. And my daughter, Nova, she has the same issue. She's way up here, everybody is down here. And she's
yeah,
like, I don't fucking get it. I'm like, I
yeah,
know. Like, I went through that too. So that's why I did my own thing, did my schoolwork,
right,
try to get through the process, and then I found my true friends along the way. I only had like 2 or 3, possibly, from junior high to graduation. I
Yeah.
didn't even truly graduate. Like, I left school early, but all the credits and work that I had done, I graduated anyways, and then shortly after joined the military, which, I never thought I'd do. I never trusted my government, but I was in an abusive relationship, and so I'm just like slumped down on the couch watching daytime TV, and all of a sudden I see this Marine Corps commercial where he's climbing this mesa or plateau or whatnot, and he gets up there and stabs his sword into the dirt, and I'm like,
Yep.
that's my fucking ticket out of this. So I called the military, and at first this Navy guy was stalking me, and I'm like, this guy is a creeper for sure. Like, he's showing up at my house without letting me know, and showing up at places that I'm at. Like, how does he even know where I'm at? So instead of joining the Navy, which my grandpa who just died, he was in the Navy for about 21 years. Uh, but I joined the Marine Corps because it was the hardest, and they're known to tear you down and build you back up. And I'm already torn down to a certain extent because I was abused and I
Right.
did lose children due to this guy. And I felt like, go ahead, tear me down the rest of the way, and then build me back up. Please do. And it was the best thing I did for myself. But not only did I not trust my government at that point, but afterwards, I really, really, really didn't trust my government because I learned different things that they had done and the reasons that they had done it. And it's just so ridiculous. But I love our
Yeah.
soldiers and what they do. A lot of people don't support the wars we go through, but always, 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 please support your soldiers because they're out
Yeah.
there fighting for our way of life. And that's why I don't buy Starbucks. They don't support our
Yeah.
troops. They said, we don't support the
Mhm.
war, so we're not sending coffee. Don't support the war, support your troops. That's what's
Right.
important.
Yep. Right.
But anywho's, going back to religion, like you said, everybody's got a little piece of the truth. At least I knew where we were
Right.
going. So
But
how
yeah,
do
I
you?
mean, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
What were you gonna say?
You
No,
first.
I was just gonna say you're right though. I mean, that is, I I worked at a hospital for 3 or 4 years, and it was probably, and I was in my mid 20s, I guess, and probably one of the biggest, and I say this as that was when I really, really, really started developing my empathic gifts because I worked in the laundry department, and our basic function was to deliver laundry. It wasn't glamorous, I mean, it wasn't a high skilled position. It was, you take these carts and you drop them off. Okay. And it taught me so much because I was in the hospital when, like late at night, early in the morning, and hospitals are very, very active.
Yeah.
And it not the ones that are, and it's just the ones that are closed. Yeah, not so much. The ones that have the living in it, that's the ones that are 100%. Because you have so much more energy for the spirits to use, and you've got thousands of people going in and out of hospitals every day,
Mhm.
and that's so much energy coming in and out. It's like a hotbed for it. And with me working there, it was like it would be nothing for me to be, we had like 80 something carts, I think it was, and 11.5 miles a day is what I walked.
Holy
And
shit.
yeah, it
And
was
you're
it was
still here.
crazy. Yes,
Are you a
barely, but
ghost?
but there was, it would be nothing for me to be walking down the hall and you see people that are not there. They're not there.
Mhm.
And they're dressed like you and me, and they're just like standing there, and they're staring at you, and you're going, do not make eye contact. For the love of God, do not look at their direction. Do not, turn your badge around. They don't know your name, and no, you have to stop because you have to talk to them because the energy is so intense that you just, you're like, hey, is there anything? Can I help you? How are you? Whatever. And a lot of times they just wanted to, say hey, or sometimes they didn't know they were dead.
Yeah, and now
And,
that you're talking about that, I remember last time you were on and you were telling me about the experiences you had. Holy shit tarts.
uh,
I
and
would be so afraid, I think, or
but
anxious.
that was, yeah, and that kind of got me on that. But I worked with a guy, and this was, by I think this was what I was kind of getting at, and I rambled off, but I worked with him, and I don't know if you ever saw the movie The 13th Warrior
Oh, yes.
with, that's like one of my favorite
Antonio,
movies.
ah,
Yeah,
how
it's
do you
like,
say
it's,
Banderas?
yeah, it's like one of my favorite movies, because I love history, and that movie does a really good job at depicting that time in history. And we were in the break room talking one day, and I was like, "Hey, I said, you ever saw the 13th Warrior?" He was like, "Yeah." And this guy who's Muslim, and which I've never in my entire life looked at people about their religion or
Hmm.
the color of their skin. I've never been
Yeah,
that person.
that's your
And
decision.
we're sitting there and we're talking and stuff, and he was like, "I love that movie," and I'm like, "Yeah." And we're sitting there eating sandwiches, and I was like, I said, "What is that he says in that movie towards the end?" And he was like, I said, he draws it in the sand, and he was like, "One God," and I was like, "Yeah." So the whole time I worked at the hospital, and it would crack me up because we would pass each other and we would scream that as we were passing like each other in the halls and stuff, because there's nobody in the hospital when we were working, and he was like, there's no others, there's only can only be one God, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Well, it's
And
so
that's so
true.
it so ties into the paranormal world, because it always kind of goes back to that. It always kind of goes back to the spiritual religious side of what we do.
Yeah, and it's such a big thing, and it seems like today it really isn't. Like, it seems like the newer generations are further away from religion and further away from these certain things, and they're agnostic or whatever the hell they are. They could be demonic, I don't know. Like, there's this really cool kid that comes to my house, and he's got a Tinkerbell tattoo on his arm, his neck, but on his arm he's got a 666 and an upside down cross and all this other shit, which just does not match with the Tinkerbell thing. But I've talked to him, and he's got a really good spirit. I think he's just confused and trying to portray himself as something that he's not so people won't mess with him. But at the same time, my husband is very prejudiced, he admitted to, after his best friend came over, because he never admitted to me that he was racist or prejudiced. But his best friend was like, "You're very prejudiced, you know." He's like, "Yeah, I know. He judges people hardcore. He really cares a lot about what people think. I don't give a fuck about what people think. You don't like what I'm wearing? You don't like what I'm doing? Look the other way, okay? You got that right. Look the other way." But to him, it seems like when he's out of my presence in another state, he'll let go and he'll ride the mechanical pony that you put 25 cents in or 50 cents or whatnot, and he'll do these other random crazy things. But once he comes home, he's like a stick in the mud and he won't do that stuff. And I think it's so important to let your spirit go, to find that
Mhm.
happiness and not be weighed down by what other people think. Because to me, I could really give a fuck. Like, I really don't care what you think. And my daughter even said that to me the other day because she mistook what I was saying. She posted this picture of a large hairless cat body with boobies and stuff, and this girl's cuddling up to it, it's love for the hairless cats, but in the background there's a bunch of dildos. I'm like, who's her decorator? Can I get the decorator in my house? But she's like, if you don't like it, look away. And she's getting all offended, like I'm judging her, but I'm making jokes
Mhm.
about it, trying to make fun of it. And I think it's
Right.
funny and it's a cool post. And she didn't understand at first, so I had to explain because my daughter is pretty dense. She seems very blonde, but um, yeah, I let her know what was going on, and it all worked out. But holy shnikes, people just take what other people think way too harshly. Live your life, be happy within yourself, and build your own happiness. Don't look for somebody else to make you happy, because if you do that, you're going to be let down every time. Find
Yeah.
happiness within yourself, and then find somebody to complement that happiness, or to partake of your happiness. If that doesn't
Yes.
work, then God forbid, you got to be on your own. I mean, I know worse things than that. Being in an
Yeah.
unhappy marriage.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's important because you have to be happy with yourself before you can be happy with anybody else. And
Mhm.
and a lot of times we forget that. You know, we don't we're we're so caught up in what the Joneses are doing and what and all this other stuff. Got to have this and this and this, and we got to do this and that, and and you're like sitting there going, no, we don't. They don't look happy. They look miserable. You
Yeah.
know, they look they have that look, and that was that's why I was joking with Craig last night, and we were taking a break at the investigation, and I said, we're horrible people. Do you know that? And he kind of looks at me, and he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, we're doing what we love to do. I said, regardless of what anybody else says, regardless of what anybody else thinks, we're out here grinding at stuff that we love to do. And and we're talking about it for a few minutes, but it's true because not a lot of people, would step out of their comfort zone to do what they really want to do.
Yeah.
They're so concerned, they're so uptight and so in that bubble that they don't, they can't step out and be happy.
Yeah, they're so absorbed with that. And how can you truly be happy if you're absorbed with what makes other people happy? Yes, all my life I have always been a people pleaser. Like, I'll go to the ends of the earth to please the people around me and make them happy. I even pick up on their internal thoughts and I'll give them something or bring them something that they're thinking about, but they haven't said anything. And I'll bring them a drink or bring them whatever they're thinking about. And they're like, get the fuck out of my head. But,
Yeah,
I think we're supposed to pick up on that. And the people that are absorbed in what other people think and what makes other people happy as far as their thoughts and judgments, so on and so forth, really can bring you down. Like, do not absorb yourself with that. Do not think about it.
right.
Be you, be happy, and help others. And it is so freeing. I remember when I was a
Yeah,
teenager in high school, there was this one girl named Willow, and she actually used to mess with the elements, the wind, the sun, so many different things. And I saw it in action and I was just mind blown, like, whoa, how does she do that? But I think she was just at one with her
yep,
surroundings and the things around her, that she was able to sense when the wind would blow this way or the wind would blow this way. Like, she was directing it and it would happen. And it's kind
right.
of like, somebody could look at that and be like, witch, you're a witch, let's take off her head.
Yeah,
But I was just
yeah,
mind blown. Like, it was so amazing to me how she was able to do that. Um,
yeah,
the
yeah.
mind is a very powerful thing. The gifts we
It
have,
is.
use them. Don't set it on the shelf and leave it aside because of what other people think. Take advantage of it and use it. It's very important, especially in these days. Holy shnikes.
And that I and when you say that, and that's I've had that conversation too, with several different people, and it's almost a blessing in disguise, sort of, when you have that, because it's like, with all this stuff going on, the world the way it's in today, and you're like, you've got to be free, you've got to be happy, because if you're not, what are you doing? You know, why are you? Um, oh, sorry. Why are you? So bothered by making everybody else happy? You make yourself happy, everything else fall into place. And I think
Indeed.
with the gifts that we have, being empathic, it's an overload a lot of times, because you've got that. It's like a double-edged sword constantly. You want to make people happy. You want to go out of your way to make people happy. But then there comes a point, and I'm an Aquarius, so that's a whole nother thing. But 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 it's one of those deals where I'm like, no. Right now, my happiness comes first,
That's so
and then
true.
we'll, you know, that's. And I was up until this year, I was never that way.
It takes a
I
while
mean,
sometimes to realize it. And I was talking to my sister the other day, and I'm like, okay, take for example. Okay, so I just taken a plane trip. I hate flying on planes because I hate my life being in other people's hands. But okay, so you're on a plane, something happens, your oxygen mask comes down. Your first, like for me, my first instinct would be to put it on my kids and put it on myself last. But you're
right,
supposed to put it on yourself first so you can take care of others, and that's where it feeds
right.
into you have to take care of yourself or you can't take care of others.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're
It's
right.
hard though if you're one of those people like me that are have all your life been people pleasers and you're just trying to make people happy. Um, and a lot of times forgetting about yourself. And that's the hard part is getting into the genre of yourself. And it makes you feel so freaking selfish. Like, I can't even buy new clothes for myself because I feel so guilty. Like, they're so expensive. I'll go to a thrift store instead and find something I really like and buy it for cheaper because I feel so
Yep.
guilty to treat myself to
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'd rather treat other people because I just want to take care of people, but you can't cut yourself off. You do have to take care of yourself, and it's very
Yeah.
important.
It is. It is because I'm the exact same way. I went for years making sure everybody else had what they needed. I mean, and I when I my ex-wife, even when I was married, I made sure that she had food and my stepkids had food.
Hmm.
I would go to work without food because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's how it works. But over time, it got to a point to where I'm like, okay, we got divorced, and then, it's been about 3 or 4, about almost 5 years now, and I'm like, it's took me that long to be like, no, no, I'm gonna start. It was a process, but it's like now I've got to start doing me and doing what I want to do, and buying the stuff I want to buy, and being, somewhat like you. I love going to thrift stores. I love going, and I'm a big antique head. I love antiques,
Hmm.
but it's the thing of before I just can't, I can't buy any more antiques. I can't buy, you know, and now it's like, what, fuck it. How much is it? And we'll negotiate the price. I mean, I'm at that point in my life, and it's freeing. It's so nice to be able to do that. And I never thought in a million years, even like when I was younger, but it would spill over into what I do now with the paranormal stuff. I never imagined, because now I'm more open at talking with the spirits. My gifts have been abundant because it's overwhelming
Yeah.
that now I'm able to do the stuff because I've made myself let go of that. You know, I have to do this. For me first.
And that's really true, and this is the biggest truth, and it's hard for those of us that are people that are taking care of others. We're caretakers,
Hmm.
we're caregivers, so on and so forth. It's
Yeah,
hard for us to swallow that pill. It really is. But
yeah,
once you do it and repeat it, you finally start to understand what you're really
yeah,
doing. And it really is so important to take care of yourself before others. And it seems like
right.
even right now, I think, God, that's really selfish. But it's so
And,
important. If you can't take care of yourself,
and
you can't truly take care of anyone else.
hmm yeah, and especially in today's times, it's you have to be very vigilant in in how you take care of yourself and what you do. And it seems like I always go back to the whole double-edged sword stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, it's that's my way. That's the way I've always been that way my whole life. And um, working with clients and stuff, you have that because somebody was making fun of me the other day because they were asking me questions on investigations, and they were like, well, how long does it take for you to prepare for an investigation? I'm ready to go. When they call, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, good luck with that. You go ahead. You pack your car up, and they looked at me, they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I need at least 2 or 3 days to mentally prepare myself.
It's hard because sometimes you don't have that, and I get really
you
anxious when
don't.
that happens. Like,
And that was, yeah. And see, that's one thing where I'm blessed with to have Craig, as my the co-founder and my best friend, because like he said, there's a lot of times, he'll just look at me and just be like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing, I'm fine. What are you talking about? In my head will be like, I'm doing this and, I'm trying to, and he's like, just take 15, just chill out for a minute. I got this. Just do whatever. Go clear your mind. And then, but that's the thing is empathic people are so wound up all the time.
I think they have, for the most part, social anxiety. That's one thing I've dealt with. You go into this room, whether it's a bar or a conference or whatnot, and you pick up on all these energies, whether they're present or past. It's so hard to get past that. So I have to have at least 3 drinks and be like, okay, I'm good now. Like, I can cope. But otherwise, it's just like I'm chewing off my fingernails. I'm just so wound up because all this energy, if I have a few drinks, then I'm okay. I'm good to go. But otherwise, it's just really scary. It's so insane.
It's terrifying. We're normal people. Quote again. Where normal people can go. Yeah, exactly. Can go out to bars or restaurants, or whatever, and meet people and mingle and do all this other stuff. I walk into a bar and I'm going. And I start looking at people, and I know people are looking at me, and I'm just going, yeah, maybe, nope, don't look that way. Don't look to the right, but that's, and I order a drink, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, wow, those people at the table, they're staring at me. They're staring at me. I know that
they're picking up on your energy and trying to figure out what it is. I don't know, and sometimes I can see a person, and I don't want to fucking talk to that person. Like, I'm picking up on their energy. I do not want to be a 10-foot stick pull from this fucking person because they're so negative, they're so evil, and I can pick that up without even saying a word to them or them saying a word to me. I know who you are. I know what you're about, and I'm not going to mess with you. Back in the day, I would pick up on that and be like, oh, let me help that person. No, don't do that. Leave that person the furthest away you can. Even poke them with your fucking 10-foot stick and poke them further away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because their energy is so horrible.
It's so negative and so ugly.
Yeah, that you're just sitting there and you're just like, I can't believe they're like this close to me. It makes you want to like smudge yourself like right then because
right?
the energy is like so bad that you just can't deal with it. Sometimes you just can't function.
Mooney in the chat room said the Hollywood signal flashes in the sky and he's off. But on that note, we do have to go to our second musical break. On this break, we have Fireline Kiss. This guy's from the UK and he's singing Angel. Then we have Cockroach, who's an on the line or on the road trucker with his 2 doggies, and he's singing We Play House. And then we have Mr. Brick Casey, who I believe is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Give me some cheese. So you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Angel.
I like it when you pop it, drop it, swing. Now don't stop it, doing that thing. Go, go, girl, keep doing that thing. I just wanna make you my main thing. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Vanilla chocolate flavored, you're the only one that I'm searching for. You the one for me and I can't complain. You sunshine anytime it rain. Not around then I might go insane. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Honey, you so sweet, I can't ignore. Thinking about you, both more and more. Making it pop and drop and swing. I could be the king and you my queen. Yeah, you look good, but you I'm saying. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Who's them dudes in the back with the black on? True deep, don't sleep or slack on. Come to the money, honey, I'ma get a stack on. Excuse me, ma, can I get my Mac on? To the left, throw it to the right. Do it like you wanna do it to me all night. From the block, kid know how to act hard. Like brick house, women with a fat backyard. In the club with me and my man skillin' that. In the back door with me and my man chillin' that. I'm on the floor, I'm like, damn, she killin' that. It's going down, no cop around, feelin' that. I'm fly, I'm a guy that'll get him. Player like me, need two of you with him. Call you a lollipop and I wanna lick up you. Number one, my top choice of pick. Yo, give it to me, mom. Go, go, girl. Now don't stop. Oh, no, girl. Break it down for me, hit it, get it gone. Can you keep it going? On and on and on. Now give it to me, mom. Go, go, girl. Now don't stop. Oh, no, girl. Hey, break it down for me, hit it, get it gone. Cause you got it going on and on and on. Can't deny the way that you too fly. Anytime that I look you in the eye, a phenomenon that I can't explain. Like the things you're doing to my brain. You the only one to take away my pain. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Can't stop thinking about how you move and all the things that I'ma do to you. True, this might be a little bit strange. Don't care if I don't even know your name. That's why I wanna tell you this simple and plain. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Who's them chicks all thick with the pumps on? Lumps in the front, back with the bumps on. Not a cat hoping that he get his humps on. I'm way beyond with them other chumps on. Sweet enough to eat and he might bite you. Wanna make love to you, I don't wanna fight you. Nobody like you, not a one like you. When you come around, no telling what he might do. Right now in the club, who the dawn? Want a man that got it going on later on. I can tell by the dancing, you digging this song. You can tell I've been digging you all night long. And I love to be digging in you all night long. Party right here, hottie all night long. Let's flex it to the coat check, exit to the Lexus, Nexus, triple exit. Come on, give it to me, mom. Go, go, girl. Now don't stop. Oh, no, girl. Break it down for me, hit it, get it gone. Can you keep it going on and on and on? Now give it to me, mom. Go, go, girl. Now don't stop. Oh, no, girl. Hey, break it down for me, hit it, get it gone. Cause you got it going on and on and on. I like it when you pop it, drop it, swing. Now don't stop it, doing that thing. Go, go, girl, keep doing that thing. I just wanna make you my main thing. You pop it, drop it, swing. Now don't stop it, doing that thing. Go, go, girl, keep doing that thing. I just wanna make you my main thing. Vanilla chocolate flavored, you're the only one that I'm searching for. You the one for me and I can't complain. You sunshine anytime it rain. Not around then I might go insane. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Honey, you so sweet, I can't ignore. Thinking about you both more and more. Making it pop and drop and swing. I could be the king and you my queen. Yeah, they look good, but you I'm saying. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Can't deny the way that you too fly. Anytime that I look you in the eye, a phenomenon that I can't explain. Like the things you're doing to my brain. You the only one to take away my pain. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that. Can't stop thinking about how you move and all the things that I'ma do to you. True, this might be a little bit strange. Don't care if I don't even know your name. That's why I wanna tell you this simple and plain. I just wanna make you my main thing. I like it when you pop that, drop that. Keep going, baby, now don't you stop that.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we have Mr. Hollywood. We got Jason Fife in the house. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been awesome having you so far.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
As usual. I'm sorry that Craig had to jump off, but I totally understand with having to be to work in the morning and such. You know, we all have our own lives, but it was awesome to have him around and to hear from your counterpart. I kind of wish I had asked some different questions because I didn't know I had a short amount of time with him. I thought I had him for the full 3 hours, but at the same time, it was cool
Gotcha.
to have him at that short point.
Yeah, I think next time I'll see if we can get him to stay on a little bit longer. You know,
We'll
going
have
to
to
work
double dog
later.
dare him.
Yeah.
I double dog
Be like,
dare you.
you're not going to work till 9 tomorrow, okay, pal? You got to finish this.
Yeah, he's got to do it, and I think at one point, usually I'll do the Periscope, but I haven't been doing it because my phone screen is fucked up, so I can't do the video live. But yeah, I
Mhm.
saw him like pull the earphones away and look at somebody and communicate
Mhm.
with them, and it was probably the wife saying, "Hey, you should go to bed soon. You got to get up early." But he's so
Yeah, I
awesome.
think.
It reminds me of like a band. So the bass player and the drummer, like you guys looking at
Mhm.
each other, you don't even have to say anything and you're communicating.
Um,
Like, is that how it works with you guys?
it is. I mean, from day one, that's the way it's been. I mean, we haven't had any. Shouldn't say miscommunications, but we've always been connected, and it's weird because I was married to it was his it's like his sister basically, um, and what it was his my wife and her brother Craig grew up with them, and so he was part of the family, and he was in the military for I think 20 years or
In the
so,
Navy, he was
and in the Navy, yeah. And we had just got married, and he had just got out. He was out on leave, and first time I'd ever met him, and we clicked. I mean, it was the weirdest thing ever. Like, I shook his hand. We sitting there talking and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, I gotta." He was stationed in Hawaii at the time, and he was like, I'm coming back in like I think 4 or 5 months or something, And then he moved back to Knoxville, and ever since then we've been hanging out. I mean, and then we started doing the paranormal stuff, and we haven't stopped.
it's so amazing. Okay, so my grandpa Cookie, who just passed away, his name was Frank. I always thought it was William, but come to find out his middle name was Williard, which I used to call dorks in school Willards. Willards. So his middle name was Willard. Frank Willard Boyd, and he was a part of the military. He was there for 21 years, I believe. He served his time. He did such a wonderful job. His funeral was amazing. Besides the fact that everybody was lined up taking turns, and they generally just give you 30 minutes per person, but I believe we had a full hour for our ceremony, and it was so awesome to see the flag folding ceremony. And then my grandma kept calling it the 21 gun salute, but it was
Yeah.
actually like a I believe it was a 3 gun volley salute. So it's
Yes.
like people with 3 guns shooting because I know it wasn't 21. It was crazy. I was stuck, and I still feel bad because I made the video for the funeral because a lot of people couldn't make it due to COVID.
Hmm.
And so I'm trying to get a video for people that couldn't be there, and I just got a message from my cousin, my cuddy, saying, "Hey, when's that video going to be ready?" Well, I've been busy hauling tons of dirt by shovel and freaking wheelbarrow. I did that up to like 30 minutes before I was supposed to come in here and do my job. I was late doing it because I was hauling dirt, but um, I've been looking at stuff, trying to find a song for when the carriage was carrying his remains. And
Hmm.
generally, it's supposed to be a 2 horse carriage, but it's a 1 horse carriage, and it has the wagon with the windows, and you can see the box that's in there. And it was really a really awesome, spectacular thing. And then occasionally they'll have things fly over top and such, so I got a little bit of that, but it was very intense. But at the point that they were doing the 3 gun volley, they tell you if you're a veteran, salute. If you're
Yep.
not, put your hand over your heart. So I'm doing this
Yes.
and then going like this and then doing this and then going like this. And at the same time filming with this arm the soldiers that are doing the flag carriage thing, but I did not get the soldiers doing the three-gun volley. So I felt guilty like I let my grandma down, you know what I mean? And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like I wish I would have brought that second camera out like I had planned, but I didn't have tripods cuz I brought the tiniest little suitcase. So I didn't have to have the baggage charge because I can't afford it. You know, bitches be broke these days. But it was really a really good service. And when his best friend got up there and was talking, that's when I finally like broke the cusp and started crying. And once you do that, it's like a roller coaster of crying, not crying, crying, not crying. Why are you crying? Because I miss my grandpa. And blah. But he was
Yeah.
amazing. So the point I was trying to get at was last time I saw my grandpa, me and my sister Amanda went out there and he's like, "So what have you been up to?" Well, I do paranormal investigation, I do private security, so on and so forth, and telling him about the different cases that I've partaken in, and he's leaning forward, listening intently, and so I'm wondering if he's leaning forward because he can't hear me very well, or if he's really interested. And when I stayed at my grandma's house, I was not supposed to be invited to the funeral because it's 25 and under. So many people that are coming. And fortunately, my niece, okay, my cousin Latanya, her mom, my Aunt Bonnie, and other people were exposed to the COVID.
Gotcha.
Latanya
Yeah.
actually passed positive for it, so they couldn't come. So that left room for me. Um, But yeah, he had actually listened to what I said, and while I'm staying in his bar room, is what they called it, which I call his office, because that's what I call mine. It's my office, even though it's a bathroom. A lot of people don't know it's a bathroom; they can't tell. But I'm sitting right next to the toilet. But anywho, he's got all kinds of paranormal books, and I'm just amazed that he actually listened to what I was saying. He was actually interested and trying to find answers for when he passes. And I think a lot of people that are going through that stage in life are trying to find answers, even though they haven't believed in it before. I have experience where I know it's true. There is one judgment day. There's not multiples. There's one judgment day,
Yep.
and God goes through it all at once. That's why spirits are still here.
Yep.
Um, that's the only way to explain it. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me. You're still here because Judgment Day has not happened yet. I think it's going to
Oh.
happen pretty soon. I had a patriarchal blessing when I was going to the LDS church, and me and my sister were talking about this the other day. She told me that hers said, even though she's got some immune deficiencies, so on and so forth, she said that her patriarchal blessing said she would not be submitted to the diseases of the time, so far as COVID and other things like that. But
Right.
she's supposed to be here for the end times. She didn't tell me that part. She told me about the whole disease part. And I said, well, my patriarchal blessing said I'm supposed to be a leader among women and children. And she's like, my patriarchal blessing said the same thing. So it makes sense. Like, we're going to be here for the end times. And I know that humans have been looking for the end times forever. Everybody from the
Right.
beginning of time have been talking about the end times. But
Yeah.
the way this is distributed as far as our blessings sounds like it's going to be pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's pretty intriguing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it really is going to happen, or do you think it's just like some sort of, not euphoria, but some sort of panic sort of thinking that the end times are really, really happening?
I'm being. I mean, being more spiritual now and more religious growing up. I mean, I'm a firm believer that we'll be called one day, whether we're alive or whether we're dead. Um, because I mean, it says in the Bible that when you die, you don't automatically. From the way I gather it, you don't automatically go to heaven. You don't
No.
automatically go to hell. So it's sort of like a purgatory, sort of.
Hmm.
And
Spirit prison.
when, yeah, and when God comes back in the rapture, then that's when everyone will go, whether you're alive or not. And that's I don't, being in the paranormal and stuff like that. I think about that stuff a lot.
Hmm.
Um, like it's and even with all the stuff going on, it brings it even to the forefront of my mind a lot of what's going to happen. You know, I don't necessarily think it's going to be like the movies say, where it just lifts people up or they just disappear.
Yeah, and
Um,
everybody else was left behind. It's kind of hard to
yeah,
see
and
that.
everybody,
Who would fucking
yeah, and
notice?
yeah, and that's a thing of because there's going to be great battles fought here on Earth. So are we at the beginning times of that? Are we starting to see the shifts of the continents and everybody's starting to align and this and that, and are sides being drawn, or are they getting into the realm of you know good versus evil? And it's almost mind numbing because I don't think we can actually fathom what's going to happen, or how it's going to happen. I'm sure there's probably people out there with those gifts that know, but for what was I saw a meme the other day on Facebook, and I laughed because it was true. It was like, for years people were laughing at the people wearing the little tinfoil hats,
Hey,
and now the people that have the tinfoil hats are on top. They're the ones that people are going to ask advice from, and they're the ones that people are looking to for answers and this and that. It's really it's mind numbing at times.
it really is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was trying to find a ticket to get there before my grandpa passed, and then the next day I get there to go on my flight. 45 minutes before my flight's supposed to take off, I've checked online. I only have a carry-on. I should have not to go through all these processes, and the gate is closed, and I'm just sitting there, and I want to scream out like, "Hey, is anybody there?" But I'm trying to be reverent or respectful or whatnot. I'm trying not to cause a hoopla and get banned from flying. So I'm just standing there at the end of the line waiting for somebody to poke their little fucking head out. And then all of a sudden, this guy pokes his head out and he's like, "Hi, what's going on?" Okay, so I checked in last night. I already checked in. I have carry on. I don't have any baggage to check. I need to get on this flight. And he's like, "Okay, let me go check real quick." And he comes back, "I'm sorry. They're already going down the line." Have you ever heard of a flight that leaves 10 to 15 minutes early? I have never experienced that. And as
No,
soon as that happened, I was like, Grandpa's gonna die. I just knew he was gonna die. And so I was just sobbing, like, oh, like I can't do anything about this. And it was so hardcore. And I can't believe that even though it's a small airline, they generally keep their gates open. This gate was closed. And I'm standing at
mm-hmm.
this little fucking sign saying blah 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 yada yada. It was insane, but I knew. I knew as soon as that flight did not go, he was going to be gone before I got there. I wouldn't be able to say my goodbyes, but not my grandpa, my grandpa husband. My husband said, "Okay, well, this just means that you won't remember your grandpa as he was at the time. You'll remember him as he was when you last saw him," which is really
Right,
comforting to me. Um, I'd rather remember him as he was when we were talking than being shriveled up and just this small resemblance of a human, because he's so
right.
sucked up and so um,
Mm-hmm.
going to the other side. So I was grateful for that, but at the same time, I was just like, oh my God. And then I got uninvited to the funeral because other people meant more, and then finally I
Right,
got to go in, and I felt bad about it at the time. I was like, yay, but at the time I was like, wow, I really feel bad for those guys that can't make it, because it is a really important thing.
right. Yeah, I mean,
But that is important for people to attend. I mean, if you have the opportunity, then that's you're paying respects to that person, and that's a lot of what I guess what I don't really understand, or maybe I'm not meant to understand, but the restrictions that have been put on people to where they can't see their loved ones or they can't visit their loved ones, or and a lot of people have passed without anybody, you know and and as humans we can't dwell on that, but at the same time, it's hard for us not to, because if it would have been normal and everything, and I can't stand that word, but I said it anyway. But normal.
yeah, but if it would have been this time last year, then everything would have been fine. You know, there would have been no restrictions. Everything, you would have just got on the plane, right then, flew out, no issues, no problems. You'd have been there, da da da. But now it's not like that, and it hurts me because it's really affecting people's lives, because that is a lot of people, that's all they have. That's it. And I watch on TV, and I don't watch the news hardly at all. Like, I've just quit watching the news, and I've caught some of the commercials and stuff where I see the people in like nursing homes and stuff like that, and then I see the people outside, and it kills me, because growing up, we would always go to nursing homes
Hmm.
and visit, even though if we didn't know them, or the people, we just went to visit because maybe they didn't have family, maybe or whatever the situation. But it's one of those things, and now I'm seeing this, and I'm just like, what is happening? But as you're talking about, kind of the end of time stuff, that is really relevant, because I have a pretty, and I don't know when it's going to happen. Nobody does, but I have that mentality of, if we're not close, we should be.
Hmm.
You know, we we should be. We should be there almost.
Well, every time I've been to a funeral, people have said, let's get together at a time that's not like this, a time of loss. Let's get together for a time of celebration. And we had talked about doing a Texas Hold'em game for Grandpa, and he always said, no funsies. So you can't come in to play for fun. You got to have money, which I didn't. Um, but once I did get some money, I was going to buy these Crenshaw noses because my grandpa had the Crenshaw nose and the little furry eyebrows and the glasses and stuff. And we were all going to play this poker game with our Crenshaw noses on and our grandpa's hat, or for my mom, her dad's hat. And we were going to have a good time. But it's amazing to me how drama affects everything, and people react differently to losing someone than they should. And so people
Yeah.
lash out, they hurt the people they love, they say hurtful
Yep.
things because they know what buttons to push. I almost said buttons.
Yep.
What buttons to push. Um, it's so
Yeah.
sad. And I even wrote my Uncle
It
Mike,
is.
and he has not responded because I think he's too hard headed, being a Boyd. He's too hard headed to listen to what I'm saying, even though I have experience in the field of death. I've been there for so many deaths,
Yeah.
and I thought I was cursed. Like, am I an angel of death? Am I affecting people to where they're dying? But I don't think that's the truth. I think I was there for them as they're dying, to be there for them
Right.
and to be there for their family members. And
Right.
death is actually a really big part of my life. I really hate that aspect of it. But at the same
Right.
time, I'm grateful to be there for people who need me on the passing side and the people that are left here kind of astray. It's quite difficult and it's quite hard, and I still kind of cry about it and relent on it, but we all have our different missions, our different things that we're supposed to do, and the paranormal is a big thing. And like I said
Right.
before, I'm so grateful for you and Craig, and I don't know if you guys have other team members, but you guys are doing an
It's
awesome epic job.
It's actually it's us. I mean, it's me and him, and then his wife helps on it with it too, and then his oldest stepson goes with us sometimes. So yeah, it's just basically just me and him that do it, and that was one of the things of course we had talked about, team wise and people wise and stuff, and and I got tickled tonight because I was so ecstatic when you messaged me, because I was happy. I was like, yes, I was happy, I was like, all right, and so I messaged him and I was like, hey, are you busy? He's like, well, not, and I was like, well, get unbusy because we're doing a podcast tonight. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yes, I'm serious. And then I was like, but it's going to be late. So, like 10 o'clock, whatever our time. And he was like, are you really being serious right now? And he kept saying that. And I was like, because I think this was his first podcast.
Seriously, he did really good.
But we've always talked about this stuff, with the podcast and stuff, because when we go out, and I have the gift of gab, I get it through my genes, my genetics.
I wish I did. I'm Irish and Cherokee, and I have a bit of German and some Mediterranean. But what I really want to do in my life is go to Ireland, kiss the Blarney Stone, so I can have the gift of gab. Because otherwise, I'm just like, yeah, I'm listening, but I have nothing to gab about. You know what I mean?
Right.
It really stresses me out.
And that's what, because we've done like videos and stuff, and we'll have our little parts, whatever, like our little like kind of advertisement type deal, and he'll sit there and he'll like, it's your turn, it's your turn. And because he knows once I get on a roll, I can't stop talking. Like that's just.
But you just so good as far as like waiting your turn, and then once you had your turn, you had stuff to say, but you're not like interrupting to say what you're thinking. You're patiently waiting.
Right.
So the thing that with Craig, I was just like, okay, so he saw this entity when he was a kid. He covered his head up with a blanket because he didn't want to deal with it. Like, that's the major shield of armor, the blankets. Just pull it up, you're safe. They can't penetrate the blankets for some fucking reason.
Nope.
I don't get it. It's so funny. But at the same time, he's the voice of reason. He's trying to rationalize everything, and I'm just like, okay, so you witnessed and partook of this thing, but you're trying to rationalize everything. Like, did you try to figure it out? No, I was hiding. How do you rationalize these things? And it's good to have that little anchor, you know what I mean? While you're going off on your tidbit of what you know is true, he's being your anchor. He's like trying to pull tighter.
Yeah, and that's true, because even though it's, to me, I'm super blessed to have him on the team and to have him as my best friend, because it's so rare and hard to find these days, because we've been through so much together, and being in the paranormal field, the paranormal community, it's so refreshing, and it's so nice to be able to, I can kind of go off, I go in, I talk to the clients, I try to get stuff set up, and he does his thing. Well, if I'm in there talking too long, or, whatever, he'll come in and holler at me. He'll be like, hey, what are you doing, or whatever. And I'll be like, okay, well, I'll go back and I'll help them, or whatever it is. But it's like he keeps me on that straight and narrow when we're out here doing this stuff. And if we come across, a spirit, or if we're in somebody's house or whatever, he will go the extra mile to the extent to debunk it. We've been on cases like, you have a crawl space? And yeah, where's it at? And I'm like, what? And he's like, And I'm standing there and he's like, you have a crawl space, you have an attic. You show me where those are at. You know, like, I mean, he's already checking stuff out to make sure that there's, and he thinks a lot of that stuff that I don't think about because I go into it and I'm like, yeah, we're going to, get this. And because in my mind, I already see it. I can already feel the energy off the people. So I'm already working on my stuff, and he's right here beside me going, nope, nope, nope. He
Nope,
goes, is that a new faucet?
no, no.
Yeah, that's what cracks me up. Is that a new kitchen faucet? When did y'all put that in? But he asked those questions, and it makes at the time it just doesn't, but it makes sense because he's like, it's dripping right now. Is that what you heard the other night? I mean, he comes up with this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, you are a genius. Like
Motherfucker.
because me, I'd be off, because I'm feeling all this energy and spirits and stuff, and he's over here like doing all the other stuff, and I'm going, this works out well. But it's been that way for 13 years, and it's such a blessing to have that.
It is, and it's like I'm saying, like the bass player and the drum player, you guys are looking at each other. You don't even have to say anything, and you know what each other is thinking. You have that telecommunication or those feelings like going across, and you know what's going on with each
Mhm.
other. It's so amazing to have that connection because a lot of people don't. And so I'm
Uh,
so grateful that you guys do because it's so rare. And I'm glad that you guys did find that soul collection or connection. It's
yeah,
pretty interesting and
yeah,
intriguing.
it is because I think about that a lot too, though, and I'm like, if I wasn't hanging out with him and doing paranormal stuff, who would I be doing paranormal stuff with? And
Myself,
and it,
no, not
yeah, I
safe.
mean, no, but and that we were driving to the investigation yesterday, and this is a prime example. He gets in the car, and I'm like, we get down the road, we stop and get something to drink and stuff, and it's about a 2 hour drive, and we're driving. I said, I got some things I need to go over with you, and then this and that, and I'm driving, we're listening to music and stuff, and I was like, okay, I said I've got all the stuff down. I said we need to figure out on color for our t-shirts. I said I've got the designs already done. Da da da. I need to know what color shirts you want. We're gonna have black shirts, and then we're gonna do. And he was like, it doesn't matter to me. Just run with whatever you think.
Just make me a fucking t-shirt, dude.
And I'm like, and I'm driving, and I'm like, you are a genius. Because in my mind, I'm sitting there going through all these different options and this and that,
Overthinking it.
and overthinking it to the max. And then I know that's just a small part, but I'm like, I said, wow, I thought about doing like a black and maybe like a purple for the ladies, or maybe a hot pink
Go
and
red.
black. He goes, huh? Yeah,
Just
and
go red.
he goes, it doesn't matter. Just as cool, calm, and collective. And I'm like, you are the man. I'm like, I can't make these decisions. I can't do, but that happens on every investigation we go on. It's like that, like you said, that voice of reason, that reels me back in to where, we're back on the same page and everything works out.
It's so funny. But I don't even know him, but I'm good at reading people, even though he's thousands of miles away from me. I lived in Tennessee once. I
Did
actually
you?
shared yeah, I lived in Morristown, Tennessee, God forbid. And I lived in
Oh my,
Fayetteville, Tennessee. Um, I went to Morristown with my Marine Corps donor because we were both in the Marines and he was the donor to my first child. Then he went around and did his whore thing. And then I went to Fayetteville, Tennessee to have my daughter. I let him know when and where it was going to happen. He never showed up, never contacted me, but I still did my thing. I raised her for 2 years before I had any sort of help. It was just me and her against the world. But it's just like, you can't count on people. You have to do your own thing. You have to depend on yourself, and that's the most important. Because,
Yeah.
like I said before, ain't nobody else going to take care of you. You got to take care of yourself. And it was
Yep.
me and Kenzie against the world. And now she hardly talks to me. She mostly talks to her enabling stepdad, but what if? She's so beautiful. She's going to be 21 in November. Holy shit, tards. I
Oh
was
my.
21. I turned 21 2 weeks before she was born. Can you believe that? So I'm 21 years after she was born, and I'm still just like, holy shit, tards. I still can't believe it. But she's so amazing. She's gone through different spurts of ups and downs, and she's met the most wonderful person in the world. He's such a good partner for her. He loves her so much, and they have such a good life together. I'm so proud of her and so grateful what she's going through, but it just seems like this COVID thing. Holy shit. Okay, so I think it all started with the lab, which is 3 weeks, I want to say, but 3 blocks away from where the market is. They decide to release this thing into the market, hoping to control it,
Right.
and it gets out of hand. You cannot control a freaking virus. It's going to spread, spread,
Yep.
spread. So they release
Yep.
it, let it go 3 blocks away from where they gave birth to it, and now
Yes.
everybody in the fucking world is dying from it. And I
Yep.
watched Vice, I watched Italy go through this stuff, and it just broke my heart. And then when it came to it coming to our country, and Trump was like being flippant about it because he wanted to not put too much drama into it. I do not support Trump, but I know he was trying to downgrade it so people didn't freak out. So he's like,
Right.
"Oh, we have control over this. Everything's going well. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay." But it really wasn't. It was just like out of hand. They thought they could put it out there and control it, but it was just like puppies, like dogs having puppies. It's like all over the
Yep.
place.
Yeah.
Insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a weird thing for us too, like at work wise, because um, when all this stuff hit, it was business as usual.
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't like, you know, I had that like slight, slim chance of, I wasn't ready for it financially or mentally, but I'm like, okay, and they it was like 2 days after, they started shutting stuff down. They sent us our letters. They're like, keep us in your car. You're still coming to work every day, and I was like, oh, okay. And but the surrealness didn't hit until like 2 weeks out, and um, I drive like 40 miles one way. So, I'm on the interstate and I'm going, um, and we basically could work, like they let us work like 10, 11 hours a day, whatever we wanted to work, no more than 12. And I'm like, okay. So we're driving to work and I'm just like, and I've lived around a couple of people on my shift and I'm like, we're the only flipping people on the interstate right now.
I know
Like
there's
there's
nobody else there.
nobody.
It's like
And
Armageddon.
yeah,
Wait,
yeah, there. Like seriously, I'm like, there's no cops anywhere. There's no fire trucks, no ambulances, there's nothing. And I get to work and I'm like, okay, but everybody, we do our job and get ready to go home. And I'm like, I can't go to Walmart because they're closed. I can't go to the grocery store because they're closed. I can't, there's all this stuff that I can't do now because everything closes when I'm still at work. And even now, when people started coming back to work, and that's a whole nother mess. But as I'm driving, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, 1918, they had the Spanish flu, I believe it was, and they still had sporting events and all this other stuff. And there's,
especially in Texas, they had to restart 3 times. Learn from your history.
and like I said, I'm a huge history buff, and and I'm going. They played the World Series, in baseball, and everybody in the stands have masks on, and but and all this stuff's going through my mind at this time, And it's kind of freaking me out because as people start coming back into the workforce, it's like more and more traffic. It seems like now there's more than there was before.
Yeah, it's
And
insane. It's like,
and
where'd all these fuckers come from? We actually had our
you know,
sunroof smashed out by a rock that was flicked up by a semi, came down, hit our car really hard, and we heard this kind of foily or elasticy sound like so I cracked open the window and looked and I was like, holy shit, the sunroof, which I believe is a moonroof, but they're saying it's a sunroof, it smashed in. Had we had the opening port open, it would have hit my sister
oh
and
my
she would have
God.
fucking died. But luckily we had it
That's
closed, and once we heard that noise and I opened it up and saw what it was, something had come through the window right above her head. Like something was trying to kill her. Had that been open, she would have died. I swear to God. It would have gone through this vein in her arm. It would not have hit her in the head, but it would have gone through this artery in her arm and fucking killed her. It hit that hard. And I think it was a semi truck that kicked up a rock that went up really
yeah,
high at a high rate of speed and then came back down at the same rate of speed and
yeah.
hit our window.
Hmm.
Holy shit, Tars. That was
That's
insane.
that isn't. I mean, that is insane because that what 8 months ago you wouldn't have really had to deal with any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm sort of a conspiracy theorist to an extent,
I like
and
conspiracies. I don't call them theories because they're really conspiracies. No, but
yeah, and that's a thing of but I'm even now as I'm driving into work, I'm just like, there's all these tractor trailers out here, and then I'm sitting there going, why are there 75 flipping rock trucks driving the same route as me every day? There's no construction around here. Where are they going? I mean, that's just my train of thought is, because I'm more open to everything. So
well, yeah, and I
I'm
feel you
starting to see
there.
all this.
Like as soon as that rock hit, I'm looking around what vehicles are around us. I'm trying to observe
Right.
my surroundings. I see this truck about 50 feet in front of us. I think it kicked up a rock or something off the highway and it flung it into the air at a high rate of speed and it came down and perfectly hit on a fucking moonroof in the middle of the car. Like, how do you plan that? You can't. And Amanda
No.
kept saying, my sister, she kept saying, I think somebody threw something at us. No, there was no bridge. There was nothing like that. Like this car or truck had flipped this thing off the highway and brought it back down on our car. And then shortly after that, a semi tried to kill us. Shortly after that,
Oh my gosh.
somebody had a tire that broke apart and we had to dodge the pieces. I mean,
Oh,
everything on the road that day seemed to be against us, and we're going to pick up this little pug puppy for my sister because her dog had just died. I swear to God, my grandpa died. My sister's dog died, and then my sister went and got a puppy, and then shortly after that, my mom's dog tried to die, and I'm feeding it
oh
in
my
bone
gosh.
broth and trying to keep it alive, and I'm just like, I can't believe all this shit is happening. It's like one after the other, but to me, it could be a sign of the times, like people say.
Right.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, I could be over exaggerating, but it just seems like whenever does this happen? One after the other, after the other, after the other. It's just like stacking up.
Yep. Yeah. And it seems like it always goes in cycles too.
Hmm.
I mean, it always seems like it happens, and it's not. I guess at the time you don't really think about stuff. You don't think about that, but then, like you said, you've had those instances, right after the other, and it's stuff like that. It's not. I don't think it's really coincidental.
And Mooney's in the chat room. You pissed off God. No, you pissed off your mama. Shut the fuck up. I ain't listening to your bullshit. But anyways, we're down to T minus 4 minutes and 50 seconds and counting. So, sexy Jason, do you have where people can find you? Do you have a YouTube channel or a Facebook channel, or where can our listeners find you on air or online?
You can Right now, we have I'm on Facebook under Jason Fife. Um, Same picture profile as my face right now. Nothing crazy. And we also have we just started this a couple weeks ago, but it's the Knoxville Paranormal Society. You can find us on there too. Um, there wasn't one around here anywhere, and we decided to start it to basically help educate people, um, the do's and don'ts of the paranormal. So um, it's really big right now. It's growing, and we're really happy with that. Um, we have a lot of. It's a really diverse group, which is good, and it's we've had some pretty good stuff on there so far. But those are two things, and you can reach Craig too at Craig Hoffner on Facebook, and my email is jason575 at gmail. You can email me. I've always got my phone on me, and Craig is Craig Hoffner at Gmail. Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah,
phone
it's
doesn't
funny.
stop for some reason.
Yeah, I know, because you're so sexy and everybody wants a piece of that.
Oh
I
my
know
God.
I do, but it's funny because like contacting people and trying to get through, and a lot of people will ignore it because I get messages when I get calls that say potential spam.
Right.
And generally I ignore it, but this one time I answered it. It was my daughter with her new phone number. Hey mom, this is my new phone number, blah blah blah. And it said potential spam, and I'm just like, oh snap. I'm glad I answered it. Like generally I wouldn't, but I did at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. Because you're hoping it's not one of those. Was it the telemarketers that's calling for the car insurance or whatever? It started back up again, where they're constantly calling you.
Or Nigeria trying to scam you out of some shit. I don't know.
Yep. Exactly.
It's so freaking complicated. The world today, I swear to God. And even when I was doing the Dylan Redwine being missing, this person contacted me. I have Dylan Redwine, and I will release him for this amount of money. Okay, so show me a picture. He would never show me a picture, and turns out I went to the cop shop and they showed me that this was a person from Nigeria. These people do not care about you or what you're going through or who's missing
No.
or the life that is in effect. They're trying to feed off of it and get money from you because they know you're in a
Yeah.
deplorable state. But I just want to
Right.
thank you again, Jason, for being my hunk of love and burn of love on the station tonight. It was awesome. I had a really great time with you, and I'm sorry Craig checked out early, but I totally understand.
I've enjoyed it too. I mean, this is my second time on the podcast, and I have such a great time on here. I mean, it's so much fun, and thank you very much.
I know it's funny. I talk to people, and I'm like, okay, it's 3 hours, but it seems like much less because we have so much fun, and it never seems like enough time. So I hope I have you back again later on this in the future. But thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences and things that have happened to you and Craig and so on and so forth. It's been really freaking awesome.
I've enjoyed it. It's so much fun.
If you'd like, you can
Thank
stay
you.
on with us for the after party. If anybody on the airwaves wants to join us for the after party, just look up Tessa TESSA .n.Thomas THOMAS 30 at Gmail, or you can look me up at oh gosh, I can't even remember the other one. Anywho's 970-335-9596, and we'll add you on. But thank you so much, Jason, again for being on the air with me tonight. It was awesome. I had a great time.
I enjoyed it too. Thank you, and thank you for all the viewers. Thank you, guys.
And thank you to all the friends and listeners. Nighty night, love and light.